guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with the second half of October wrap-up. I read 16 books in the last 15 days. I read 19 books in the first half, but I did read a couple more novellas in the first half of the month. And this past week, it has taken me 6 days to read one book physically, and that typically doesn't happen, and so I haven't been reading as much. I know 16 is still a lot, but it doesn't feel as much as I've done in past months, but I will go ahead and get to the 16 books that I've read throughout the past 2 weeks. The first one I have is Dangerous Temptation by Gianna Darling. I read this in a weekend reading vlog. I believe the next couple, yes, all 3 of these next ones I read in that reading vlog, so I'll link it down below. This one is Gianna's newest release with Dangerous Press, so it is in the world that all of their books are published through. I forget the author that's in charge of it. I don't remember who it was, but Gianna was invited to write a book in that world. It is a Guardian Ward romance, so our heroine, I had read the novella last wrap-up in the previous wrap-up, and that one's all about our heroine who is 17, and she pretty much raises her younger brother who has epilepsy. He's like 9, I think, and their mom's not really the best mom, and she goes through guys, and her newest boyfriend is Tiernan, who ends up being their ward when her mother dies, and so he was only using her mom though, and now she has to move to New York to live with him with her younger brother, and we get to learn a lot about Tiernan. I really loved delving into his character and figuring out why he was the way he was, why he needed to use the heroine. I think it was Bianca was her name. I can't specifically remember what her name was, but he needed to use her for a certain reason. He had a really bad relationship with his family. He was used by his family, and it was really interesting, and I really like the dynamics of the families at this like rich prep school that our heroine goes to, and the kind of family that's formed with all the people that work for Tiernan. I really love them and how close they grew to her brother, and the house he lived in was really fun. It was very atmospheric and kind of creepy as a mansion with like the cover. It has like that knocker, like lion knocker, I think, and I just really love this. Definitely more taboo because she is his ward now. Like, he's supposed to be taking care of her, and he dated her mom, and they do fall for each other, so I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. Then all of these are 5 stars. So just gonna say the next 4. The first 4 books I had to talk about are 5 stars, and that makes me so happy. But Duchess Hunt by Lorraine Heath. Absolutely love this book. I am obsessed with Lorraine Heath now. If you guys have been watching me for the past couple months, like, she is my new favorite historical romance author. I have 3 or 4 books checked out on Libby so far that I'm going to listen to soon, but this one is her newest release, and I was sent this copy from Avon, but I did listen to the audiobook, and in this one it is a secretary who falls for the Duke that she's a secretary for, so she works for him. She's supposed to be lower class. She's hiding a secret though, and her secret and his secret actually come to light near the end, and they have to deal with the repercussions of what those secrets are. But I really love the mutual pining. They really both just were so into each other, but he's a duke and he needs to find a duchess, and so he puts an advertisement in the paper for anyone who wants to be his duchess, and she's supposed to help him. And that's another one of my favorite tropes, is when they're helping each other fall for other people, but they fall for each other instead, and she's supposed to be like vetting these women at balls that she goes to with him to see if they are a fit for him or not, and he's slowly falling for her, and he realizes now like how his servants and staff are treated, because he has to like take care of her because she gets sick. And like, I love that whole aspect of this book where he starts like treating his staff better, because like she's also staff, and then she's kind of in this weird position where he is treating her a little bit differently because she's not like a servant, but she's still staff, and so she doesn't really fit in with the staff, but she's definitely not high class, and it was just a really fun dynamic that she had to deal with. It was just an interesting dynamic she had to deal with, and I just loved the slow mutual pining they had together and how this played out, and I was obsessed. So 5 out of 5 stars. You need to check this one out. Then I read There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. I did get an arc of this, and Sophie Lark sent me the paperback, which is somewhere behind me. I'm not gonna grab it, but I love this one. You've probably been seeing it around a lot. It is a serial killer romance. So our heroine's an artist, our hero's an artist, but she's a struggling artist. She hasn't really hit a break yet. She's just struggling to pay her bills as a waitress and find a place, a studio to make her art, and a guy kidnaps her, and that's how she's introduced to our hero. And she's falling for him even though she knows he's a monster, and he's supposed to want to kill her, and he's like, I know I have to kill her, I know I have to get her out of the way, but I don't want to kill her, I want to keep her. And it's so good. The little cat and mouse games they play with each other are amazing. Our heroine grows so much and really pushes his buttons and his boundaries, even though she knows he's a serial killer, and it is so good. I loved the art aspect in here. I loved how their relationship changed with the art aspect as well too, and it was just so good. And there's a cliffhanger in this one. This one's a duet. It was marketed as a duet, so book 2 comes out in December. We know that. I'm dying to know what's going to happen in book 2. I loved everything that happened in here, and I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the enemy. I don't want to say the villain because like our hero's a villain too, but he has someone who's his enemy as well that's going to play out. So I'm so excited to read book 2, but this one was so addicting and so good, and I loved every second of it, and you have to read it. Then I read The Red by Tiffany Rice. I have wanted to read Tiffany Rice for a while because I know Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers loves Tiffany's books, and so I had this on my, I think it was Hoopla had this, and I remember thinking this was like a good spooky book to read because I know she writes a lot of more gothic books, and I had no idea what this was about, and it was amazing. It's another art book, and so our heroine owns an art gallery, and this guy comes in, and I think her mom died, and the art gallery is going under, so she needs to figure out a way to pay her bills, and he offers her to help her bring it out of debt, the art studio out of debt, if she spends one night a month with him. And she's desperate and she's intrigued, so she says yes, and it is a wild ride. I loved how art was incorporated in this book. It was so cool how he would leave her something in an art book and she would open it, and like their night had to do with that art piece, and that was so cool. Definitely steamy, so know that going in. And the ending blew my mind. I loved the ending, and I would have loved another like half of a book with what that ending was talking about. I was like, can we keep going please? But it was definitely a shorter book, but I absolutely loved it. And I don't want to tell you anything else because I went in not knowing anything, and I loved the journey this book took me on and the directions it took. You need to read this book if it sounds interesting to you, and I'm so excited to read the next 2 books. I guess they have to do with other people in this world. I don't think this couple gets a new book, but such a good surprise. Definitely read this one. And then I read A Local Woman Missing by, I don't even remember who wrote this, Mary Kubica. And this one I was really excited for because a lot of people with thrillers, they're like, oh, there's crazy twists and it's amazing. And this one I feel like was more like a slow burn mystery. There wasn't really too much thrilling about this. I wasn't shocked by anything. Like everything made sense. So my dad's read this and I was talking to him about it, and I was like, it was just like the twist was revealed, and I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Nothing like blew my mind. Nothing was shocking. It's about this woman who goes missing, and we get these chapters in the past of that woman in the present, and we get a different character in the present, like the neighbor of the woman who went missing, and she went missing with her daughter, and it was just okay. And I feel like it went on a little too long. It was over 350 pages, I feel like is really long for a thriller, and it was just okay. And it wasn't a thriller. Like so there were some kind of creepy parts, like the lights went out and she's like, someone did it, but did they really? But that was the only like creepy part about this. So it was definitely more mystery and nothing shocking. So and things like unraveled very quickly at the end, and all the rest was just like very slow. So I gave this 3.5 stars. It was okay, but I didn't love it as much as it seems everybody else is. Then I read Hunger by Nicole Falls, and this one is a exercise romance. I don't even know how to put it. He's her personal trainer and she is a curvy heroine. She's very successful at her job, and I loved when they first met, and he's like, well, what's your goal with these personal training sessions? And her goal is to be strong. She's like, I don't care about being thin, I just want to be very strong and healthy. And I love that they weren't trying to change her body at all. She just wanted to be stronger. And so they have these sessions together, and there's intense attraction between them, and then she invites him to her birthday party, and it's a novella, and it was just okay. I gave it 3 stars. There weren't a lot of stakes in their relationship, and I feel like the conflict with another person in his past felt really random and not at all fleshed out. Like I would have liked to know a lot more about his past, because that was just like dropped in about halfway through, and I was like, who is this person and why didn't we know this about him? And so I think that the development and pacing needed a little bit of help, and then it was just like nothing else was really in the way of their relationship. I need more angst in these romances, so it was just alright. I gave it 3 stars. I really wanted more. It just felt like I was just trucking along with the story, and it was nothing super special to me. Then I read The Prince of Broadway by Joanna Shupe, and this one I'm pretty sure I gave 5 out of 5 stars, and this one is book 2 in the Uptown Girl series. I've actually already read books 1 and 3, and I skipped 2. So this is the middle sisters, and she is determined to own a gaming hell and for women, like exclusively for women, and she loves gambling, and so she approaches our hero and is like, I want to learn the ropes from you. He owns the gambling hell that that she wants to visit, and he is like, no way. But there is history between her father and him, and he wants to enact revenge on her father, and they start growing closer, and I really liked their interactions and the things they had to do together. And she would like just do whatever she wanted. She didn't care if something was dangerous. She would show up at other gambling hells, talk to dangerous people, and just hold her own. And I loved how she was good at gambling. It was so funny. People were like, she's cheating, there's no way a woman is that good. And then she had to show them that she wasn't cheating, even though she can count cards. And it was so fun, and I loved how they fell for each other, even though he detests her family and her father because of what happened to him. And then things come out, which I knew was going to be the conflict, but I didn't hate it. Like, normally I hate knowing and waiting for the conflict to break them up, which is I'm going to talk about a different book that did that. But in this one, I didn't mind it because I knew there was going to be a way out of it that was going to be sweet. And so I really liked how they figured out how to get over this conflict and how things ended. And so the way I'm talking about it, I'm pretty sure I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Seventh Circle by Tate James, which was actually a very pleasant surprise. I listened to this one on audio, and this one's the first book in the Hades series. And the Hades is actually a woman, which I love. She is the leader of this like underground bad empire kind of thing. Like, she has a lot of businesses, and it's like gangs and stuff, and so it's reverse harem. And I usually don't like reverse harems when like nothing really happens romantically is set up yet, but she does have slow development with the 3 guys she's supposed to be with. There's nothing like reverse harem yet, like she's not officially with the 3 guys, but I really loved how different each of her relationships were with them, because she has Lucas, who is a new employee of her strip club, like he's a new male stripper, and she really likes him, and that was my favorite romance. I really love that one. Then she has a best friend that's developing into something, and then she has someone that I don't remember if they had something in the past or not, or she wanted something in the past with him and didn't, and he's definitely the like hardened stoic kind of hero that Tate James loves to have. But I really enjoy this one. And then there's a cliffhanger at the end because she's part of a dangerous world, bad things are happening, and I enjoy this one. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I do think there's a lot I still don't know about this world, but I love the development of the romances in her relationship with her sister and her being this female boss over all of this. It was so good, so I'm definitely excited to continue on, though my library only has book 1, so I'll have to physically read it. But great start to a series. Then for Historical Hellions, my book club, that is the historical romance book club I run with Samantha from Books of Samantha. We read The Bride by Julie Garwood, and I absolutely love this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I've had a really good reading month, actually. There's only a few misses for me. So this one is a Scottish romance, and our heroine's English, and she has to marry a Scottish laird because the king declared it. And so she comes from a family of sisters. She's actually not related to them by blood. Her mother was pregnant with her, and I think had her, and then her mom married her stepdad, and her stepdad has all these daughters, and she's the youngest, but she's always like cared for them, and they've relied on her for a lot. And now she's leaving with her other sister to get married to him, and the guy's like friend, who's I think he's the laird of another clan. We're not gonna get a book about them. And I was like, this was the perfect setup to have a book about her sister and the guy she married. But at the live show, people said there wasn't a book for them, which I thought was weird. But she ends up having to go to Scotland to live with this guy, and it's definitely old school bodice ripper. Like, he chose a line between what is consent and not consent. She says no a lot of the times, but she really does want to say yes, but no, she's not supposed to act that way in society. Such a misogynistic society they live in. He has all these rules and expectations on her as a woman to listen to him and be a docile wife, but she says no. She goes behind his back, does anything she wants to, gets in trouble. But I loved how the ending rewarded her for going against the status quo, for being a strong, independent woman. Like the ending scene with all the different clans. I'm not going to spoil it, but I loved that. And so I loved their romance so much. Yes, he's super alpha and domineering, but I loved it. So if you don't like that in a hero, you're going to hate this book, but I really love this. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Cannot wait to read more from Julie Garwood. Then I read Before the Dawn by Beverly Jenkins. This one is a historical romance, and it is about a woman who marries her mother's boyfriend, kind of. Like, her mom and him never got married, but her mom passed away, and he's on his deathbed, and he's like, marry me so you can have my money and you can be taken care of. And so they get married the day before he dies. He dies, and she promised him that she would go to his son's and settle the affairs where he used to live, and make sure that I'm pretty sure like they inherited money from him, but he like cut off contact from them for like 20 years, so they detest him. So she shows up, the sons hate her, especially Ryder, the older son, but then it turns out that the guy she married didn't have that great of a reputation in town. He like really turned over a new leaf when he left with her family, but he was a really bad guy, and so he owes like thousands of dollars to people, and so the court is like, you're gonna go to jail unless you pay this money. So she has to get married to Ryder in order to pay off her debts. So she's married to her stepson, and Ryder hates her. It's a marriage of convenience, but they slowly grow closer, but there's still that kind of animosity that he has towards her, and that's what this romance is. I really loved it. The plot really did slow down though, like halfway through, like typical Beverly Jenkins does. The romance really takes a shine in the beginning, and then we get all this other plot going on for the end, and it was just okay. There was someone that was causing harm in town as well that they have to figure out. Beverly Jenkins loves to throw in some kind of mystery villain involved, and so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Loved the beginning, loved the romance, loved the hate to love, and the setup. It was amazing. Slowed down a little bit, so that's why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but I still really enjoyed this one. The biggest disappointment that I finally read is Claimed by J.R. Ward, and a lot of people I've talked to agree with me about this. This one I gave 2 stars. It is the first book in the Lair of the Wolven, and this one's supposed to be a werewolf romance. We see the cover. The werewolves are not introduced until 95% into the book. And even then, I was extremely disappointed on who the werewolf was, because I feel like it came out of nowhere. There were no clues whatsoever that this was our werewolf. I was really not a fan of how this book was written. The romance was super lackluster, and apparently they were just like super in love. I did enjoy the fact that the heroine worked for this like wolf rescue, and there were people trying to kill the wolves, like it was part of some company thing going on, and she would help rescue the wolves and nurse them back to health, but then it just like got way too much, and the romance made no sense. The hero made no sense. Like all these random things were thrown in, and I was just like, what is this book trying to be? And then something with the hero happened at the end, and I was just like, I can't. I don't care. I was just trying to get to the end of this audiobook, and the romance was not there whatsoever, even though we're supposed to be madly in love by the end. And I'm not that interested in reading book 2. We'll see if I end up continuing or not. Maybe I will, because we actually have a werewolf, like we know for sure, but it just felt so random in this book, and I didn't love it. So 2 stars for this one. Really disappointed. And then I listened to the audiobook of Falling into Bed with the Duke by Lorraine Heath, because I really want to get to book 2, but this is book 1, and apparently I listened to the first 40% last summer and just never finished. So I re-listened to it and got to the end, and it was a lot of fun. I did give it 4 out of 5 stars. I didn't love it as much as her other books, because this one is the one where like the conflict was so obvious, and I didn't love how the resolution was. I feel like the resolution was way too fast, but our heroine has a huge dowry, so she doesn't trust anybody. She's like, no one's gonna marry me for me. They all want me for my money. And she knows she's just average looking. Like, it's pretty clear. She's just average. She's a spinster. She's a wallflower. She's average. But men are trying to get her for her money. And so she is like, it's okay, fine. I'm not gonna marry anyone, but I do want to know what it's like to be intimate with a man. So she goes to this club. And it's a club where women wear masks and men pay to join the club, and they can like do whatever they want. And of course, like the women must consent, and the women can never be revealed of their identity. Like it's clear that your identity is secret. This is a place for you to feel safe and to experience what you want. So she decides to go and meets the Duke there, and she knows who he is. He has no idea who she is, and they have a night together, but they don't do anything. They just like talk, and they don't go any further, and she really likes him. And so it progresses from there, but it comes out that he is broke. And so it would be great if he married her. And so I don't want to say anything other than that, but I did really enjoy their relationship. I feel like there wasn't too much of the plot though, beyond the fact that she would go to this club and they were falling for each other. There wasn't more to the plot, which is weird because Lorraine Heath usually has a lot more to her plots. So I would have liked more, and the ending wrapped up too fast. I feel like he didn't grovel enough or prove that he really loved her, because you can guess what the conflict is that comes out at the end that makes her not want to be with him. But I still really enjoy this 4 stars, and I cannot wait to get to book 2, which is actually our pick for Ravished by Romance for November, which is this Earl of mine, I think. It's something about an Earl, and I'm excited to read it. Then the next 4 books I've read in the past 2 days. So the next one is Gothichana. I finally finished this yesterday. This one took me 6 days to read. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but for some reason I just could not sit down and read this all at once. But this is super atmospheric, dark academia romance, and so our heroine is like 22, 23, and she's pretty much lived isolated with her mother, who actually has schizophrenia, and And so her mother ends up having to go in an institution, and she is invited to go to this university, and she's like, sure, why not? And like, it's not really clear like this university, like what it is really, but it's super spooky. They've had deaths every time this ball comes around, and it's just like bad things happen there. But she ends up going and falling for a professor there who is like a bad boy. He has a bad reputation. Someone died, and like he's super mysterious, but he's only like 27. He's like a graduate student, so there's like a 5-year age gap between them. It's not that much, so it's not too taboo in here, but they start falling for each other. But then there's these murders that happen and creepy stuff, and it doesn't say there's gonna be a book 2, and there were so many things left unsaid and unanswered. This was our Ravished by Romance pick for October, and so in our live show we were like listing off everything that was still what the heck was that we don't even know. But I really enjoyed the romance. I think the atmosphere of this was absolutely perfect for the spooky season. So if you still want to read spooky books in November, I would definitely recommend this, or any time of the year if that's what you're looking for, because we have these creepy woods, we have this creepy graveyard, this creepy lake, and like people die and she hears voices, and there's this really intense romance going on. I really enjoy this. I do think the heroine read very young. Like it felt like she was 17 or 18 instead of like 21, 22, because she had been sheltered so much throughout her life. But I still really enjoyed this one. I enjoyed the ending, but I wish we knew more. So that's why I gave it 4 to 5 stars, but definitely enjoyed, and I hope the author writes a second book. Then I read Booed Up by Danielle Allen. This is a Halloween novella, and this one I gave 3.5, 4 stars. This one is super low angst, but it was a lot of fun. Our heroine goes to a Halloween party, and she actually goes to 2 different parties, but she goes to a Halloween party, meets this guy, and it was definitely like a setup between her friends, and they really hit it off. But things get a little spooky, like the power goes out, and there's like a huge storm, and they have to like cozy up together because he can't drive home. And I really enjoyed it. I really loved how they really clicked with one another and really liked each other, and then had to deal with their friends. And the ending was like a really fun twist. I really like what happened there. So if you want just a low angst, fun Halloween night romance, I would check this out. I give it 4 stars. I finally was prepared emotionally to read The Heart Principle by Helen Hoang, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This one is so hard to talk about because I feel like this is a favorite, but not, and I don't know how to think about this book. So we have Quan, who had cancer, and so he hasn't really been in the dating game. He is recovered, and Michael, who was from book 1 of the series, is his cousin. They have a clothing line together, and he kind of says, you gotta get back out there. So he joins a dating app and meets Anna, who is our heroine, and Anna is in a relationship with this guy for 5 years, and you can definitely tell she's just in it because it's comfortable and to please him and her family. He's like, you know what, we've been together 5 years. Before we settle down, let's explore what's out there to make sure we really want to be with each other. So he's pretty much like, let's take a break and I can sleep around with whoever I want to. So Anna decides, talks to her friend, she's like, fine, I'll do the same thing. So she meets up with Quan and starts this so adorable, wholesome, amazing relationship with him that's so slow. Quan is so patient with her, and it's like friends to lovers, really, and I absolutely loved it. But then that was like 40% of the book. It was so sweet and cute, and she's trying to deal with her own questions about her identity and who she is. She's going to therapy and like labeling herself kind of thing, and I loved that conversation that was in here. The next 60% of this book is heavy. It's very heavy. It deals with Anna having to take care of a sick loved one in hospice, and so it takes so much mentally out of her, and she's used to saying yes and pleasing everybody and masking, trying to act like normal and like please everybody around her, and it's so draining on her and affects her relationship with Quan and what she wants to do. And then this boyfriend comes back in the picture, and it's so incredibly hard to read. I have not hated a character as much as I've hated Priscilla, her sister, in a very long time. I was so angry with her sister, and what I appreciated about this though was that the sister was not miraculously fixed. Like, it was realistic to the point where I was appreciated the conclusion with the sister as well. So I love this book, but it's definitely, first 40% for sure a romance, but definitely turn into more women's fiction focusing on Anna and her life. But I love this, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm just in love with Quan. Like, I want him. He's mine. The last book I listened to on audio, I finished today, is Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I'm so confused on what I want to rate this. I don't know how I feel about it. It's written in second person, and it's this vampire, and it's supposed to be Dracula, but he's never named, and it explores a very abusive relationship between the heroine heroine and various people that are included in their relationship. So Dracula has multiple wives, and so it's her, another wife, and then another guy that are kind of roped in by this Dracula character and taken advantage of and given mind games and controlled, and he is terrifying. And so it's their story, and I don't know how I feel about the fact it was written in second person. She was writing it to him the entire time as kind of like closure at the end. I feel like that kind of detached me from the story. Like I didn't feel like I was immersed in the story. I feel like I was being told the story. It's so hard to explain, but that's how I felt about this book. And so I feel like I enjoyed it and what it was doing, but I didn't love it. So I feel like I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I don't know if I want to do 3.5. I know everybody really loved this book, and it's very heavy but so atmospheric because we have like these vampires living through hundreds of years, killing people together, and they're pretty much trapped in this relationship, in this marriage with no way out. So such an interesting read. Nothing I've ever read before. I would recommend it if you're in the mood for this and if you think you would love it, if this is the kind of book you gravitate towards, but I still have very mixed feelings and I don't know what to think. And those are all the books that I read in the second half of October. Let me know what you read, and if you've read any of these, I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day.